Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back to the Shadow and Sun Show. Sorry I couldn't put this video out last week, but it did give me some more time to think about it. And of course, I'm pretty sure it's going to ruffle some feathers because there's some folks out there that want to just let the dice do everything when it comes to random encounters and things like that. I want to throw some factoids at you guys that you might not be aware of, and we've even me, I've done some of these things wrong. Some of these things I didn't know until recently. Some things I've known all my life, and still pull my hair out when things go against these factoids, because I know them to be true from experience. And most of this, for the most part, is when it comes to your nighttime wandering monsters. During the day, things are different, and I'll probably do another video about that. But when it comes to night, right off the bat, you've got your watch. Okay, everybody, makes a big deal about who's standing guard, and believe it or not, the only thing you're standing guard against is the intelligent monsters. Animals, for the most part, even nocturnal hunters, stay the freak away from human camps, tents, campsites, campfires, just even human noise. For the most part, animals for the last 10,000 years have known to stay away from humans. We are too dangerous and too unpredictable. Then you throw in campfires and the noise and the weapons and ranged attacks that animals kind of understand, but not in the way you would think. They'll stay away from fire. Even animals that have never seen fire in their life, this has been tested numerous times, are terrified of fire. Animals that have never encountered it, the first time they encounter it, it terrifies them. And I'm talking about big cats, bears, lions, whatever. Now, when you start pulling in mythical creatures or displaced creatures like dinosaurs and things like that, I suppose you can, make the argument that it's a different world, different physics, and different reactions. But if you're talking lions, tigers, and bears, the usual, wolves, all those things, fire, no. Fire bad. They're not going near it. The smell of it, the sight of it. The only reason those kind of animals would come anywhere near a human, dwarf, elf kind of camp is if they smelled live animals like horses, cows, pigs, chickens, things like that they know and are familiar with eating and know that they're easy prey. I know there's somebody out there going, well, what about those lions in Africa? That was 100 years ago, and those lions, the Tsavo lions and even the Champla tigers, both, when they were finally killed, were found to have damage to their teeth that made them less skilled or less capable of hunting their usual prey, and so went to humans because they thought and found out that it was actually not as hard to kill them as they thought, especially picking off lone humans, and that's usually what happened. A group of people that are moving about, making noise, banging pot. You can scare off most wild animals by banging a pot or a pan with a hammer or a spatula or something. They hate the sound of metal for whatever reason. They just do. It's been proven. I've seen it myself. I've scared off coyotes literally 100 feet from where I'm sitting right now. They don't like that stuff, okay? So when you're making up your encounters, the only reason most of those wild animals, and mind you, I'm going by sort of the intelligence factor of the monster manual, even above animal intelligence, because some of the animals are, graded with having a little bit higher intelligence than just animal, which is actually like an intelligence of 1. That they have, reasons why they would go anywhere near humans. They're old, they're starving, or some other factor that you if you're going to do that, you should really make up in your wandering monster tables. If you're going to add those animals as a possibility, they're opportunistic and they're predators, and they're not going to just walk into a camp and start tearing at the tents. That doesn't happen. Okay, especially if there's a fire or a guy standing about, with a spear or a crossbow or a torch. They'll watch you from the bushes, but they're not going to just walk in and start doing that crap. I would make on your wandering monster table, like, if you want wolves or something, put starving or something, so you can at least justify why they're going to break the natural laws of the jungle, as it were. Even light, magical light or magical noises, whistles, hammers, drums, things like that. Now, on the other hand, all those things that'll keep away the wandering animals and lower level monsters, even like a basilisk, is going to stay away from all that stuff for the most part. I don't even know what basilisks eat, because anything they look at turns to stone. So maybe they're actually herbivores. Wouldn't that be hysterical? Or what do they nibble on the stone? And I don't know. But if it's a magical creature, I suppose you can make that argument that they will go and tear up a camp. And even then, they're probably more interested in the horses than anything else. And literally, that's bad enough. If a tiger or wolves came in and started messing with the horses and killing the horses, that's going to mess up the party's plans. And that's enough of an attritional effect that I know the DMs are looking for. Maybe they don't want to kill the party, or they're not really trying or giving them that challenge. But if you're trying to, kind of show the dangers of wilderness, taking away their animals and shredding their saddles and their saddlebags and things like that, that's fine. But the fire and the light and the noise and all that stuff will attract trolls, hill giants, ogres, hobgoblins, orcs. Those things, they're like, hey, there's a camp over there, probably of human adventurers. Let's grab all 30, 40, 70, 90, 200 of us and go, have some fun. But even then, they'd be more likely to take prisoners and then do terrible, terrible things to them for fun, because they're evil. Why just kill them when they could, take off their skin or other really disgusting, evil things that would, for them, constitute fun. All that stuff is going to attract those kind of creatures. So it's a mixed bag, but I mean, once you've decided the encounter, the players aren't going to know, and depending on what they're prepared for. However, the other thing that gets done wrong is the waking up of the party. Unless you're wounded, severely exhausted, or drunk or intoxicated, you should wake up like that. There shouldn't be a roll to wake you up. There shouldn't be everybody out there is on edge when they're sleeping. That's also been studied. You'll wake up in like a segment, let's say, not the full minute to get up. You're like, was worried about this when I went to bed. I was barely able to get to sleep because worried about what might jump on us in the night. The other thing that I notice a lot of people get wrong is the watches. Your fighters should be on first watch. Whoever gets the middle watch, if you do a middle watch, I've seen 4 watches, which is even more. And doesn't make a whole lot of sense. I mean, what do you? How do you even do that? How do you? Does the party have like an hourglass to go? Okay, so 2-hour hourglass, 3-hour hourglass. We're going to wake you up. How do they know when it's time to wake up the next members for watch duty at night. Um, that's really like always been a question. I mean, if nobody in the party knows how to watch the stars, from here to there or whatever, there's no horizon to do the finger thing. With the sun, how does anybody know when to wake anybody else up? But whoever's got the middle watch has got the shit duty, and it should be the elves if there's any elves in the party, because they don't need to sleep to begin with, and they should be on watch the whole damn time, and let the fighters and the magic users and the clerics, etc., sleep. The priests and or magic users should be woken up in the morning, watch, so that they can, while they're doing their watch, they can study, pray, meditate. Maybe if you're a lenient DM, and let them do two things at once. Listen for monsters and study their spell book. That's really not that hard. You hear something, I don't know how engrossed you're going to insist that they be to rememorize their spells or pray for their spells in the morning. In D&D, AD&D at least, you don't really pray for your lower level spells. You just kind of study them like a magic user. But doing that. The other thing that I've noticed that no one ever does, and really should, if you do have humans or non-elves on watch duty, how do you stay awake in the middle of the watch? Or if you're, like say you've got first watch, but your watch doesn't end till like, say 10 o'clock. How do you make sure you don't fall asleep after a long day of hiking and traversing through the woods and whatnot? What keeps you awake? It's best to have at least two people on watch duty so that they can communicate and talk and tell stories to keep each other awake, while they're looking at the non-existent hourglass to figure out when to wake people up. Those are some things that I've been wondering about, and why we do them the way we do them. How do we fix that, make it a little bit more realistic, make some actual sense, because in my games I usually have those things already taken care of. There's a few things that are new to me, but the fire thing has always been, a no-brainer. And if you know anything, I think it's called the Apache fire pit. If you build one of those, the fire isn't going to alert any monsters, but it's there, and the party can quickly pull torches out of it and fend off the wild animals or scare them off, and it won't actually alert the hobgoblins. They're down the road a piece. They'll smell the smoke, of course, but they might not know exactly where it's coming from if they can't see it. But that's what I've got for you this morning. I'd love to hear your thoughts on some of these before I bring up the daytime wandering monsters. But the last thing I'll leave you with is I highly recommend making your encounters as unique as possible, and not keep overusing the same creatures unless they're in orc lands, and then of course there's going to be orcs all over the place. But try to find some of those lesser used monsters in your books, and only use them once, so that you can call back to that time that you bumped into trolls, or you bumped into a flump or whatever. Don't use a flump. That's just. But you get my point. There's some creatures out there. When was the last time you ran into an ant egg? Or fire bats, or something weird that isn't too out of this world, not of the ordinary, and not too like rare. The more uncommon creatures are far more fun than non-stop orcs and kobolds and wolves, and things like that. But I will talk to you guys in about 45 minutes with second breakfast. Hope you guys had a great weekend. I'll see you guys real soon, and until then, happy trails.